Box of builds number 7. We have been absolutely exploding here in the McGolf shop, but this is something that even the most experienced golf club makers need to know. This is a boxes to builds on building with new stuff. Welcome back to the McGolf Shop. Jim McCleary here. This is the McGolf channel where we talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, and golf club fittings, all so your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, hit that stuff across the bottom. That way, more of this information gets out to the YouTube universe. We also have a live stream on Mondays at 17:30 or 5:30 Eastern PM. It's called What's in My Drawers Golf Talk, and it's what's in these drawers of the golf talk. And it was about an hour, hour and a half, and it's very, very interesting, several different topics. I think you would enjoy it. All right. All right, I have a boxes to builds that comes to us from Maryland. And it is from Graysonville, Maryland. All right, Graysonville, Maryland. And these are pieces of equipment that I have not dealt with before. So what do you do when you don't know about your gear? You know, you just don't start slamming it together and just hope for the best. Because if I would have done what I normally would have done, this set would have turned out incredibly bad. All right, bad. And that's not what we want. We want this to be a very, very nice set. Now, it is also kind of a higher end set too. And that, that ought to take, a little bit of a pause for reflection as well. Now, what do I have? I have a set of 14s. All right, for those of you not familiar with 14s, 14s was a Japanese, or they call them JPMs, Japanese manufacturing, okay? And it is a forged club. They specialize in forged models. Now, I was unaware that you could just buy heads, but apparently you can, because I've got a set of them right here. And these are the TB7s, all right, TB7s. Now, the TB7 obviously is a forged club, and it is a larger club. It is a larger club, and it has, at least in this, in most forgings, what it is that the forearm looks significantly different than the pitch. So there's the 4, and there's the pitch. So obviously they're a little different. Now, how come? Well, you got to deal with the weight. There's 7-gram increments for the most part, and they have different jobs, right? This is all about ball go far. It doesn't have to get way high in the air. This one does, right? So what do we got to look for? Well, we go to the website. Pardon me. We go to the website, and what does the website tell us? Well, first of all, we go to the website, we go to 14, and we find out that the TB7s are a new generation of TB5s. I believe the TB5s must have been a bit smaller, right? A bit smaller. It uses an S20C, which is, I believe, Europe's or Japan's version of calling it 120. So it is a soft carbon steel to be forged. That's very good. And the idea here is that they've made the club a bit wider, they say, in order to put more weight into the theater, what they call the theater. And so far from what I'm seeing, this is kind of a unique artistic way of taking a blade and making it look like a cavity back and making it look like a blade. It has a very wide sole. It has it's not a bad looking top line, not a bad looking top line at all. And what you see into the sole is typically a lot of heel or a lot of trailing edge relief, and then a slight killed edge, and then a round front. So you have a lot of trailing edge removal. And then the front is kind of removed this way, plus the leading edge is also rolled over or killed. And so that's a positive thing. The other thing is it a 370 or is it a 355? We'll have to remeasure it. 370, not so much. 355, like a glove. So now we know we have taper tips. All right. Now, so the 14, very, very popular to an extent. A lot of the Japanese manufacturers have kind of slowed their popularity around here. For some reason, I don't know. I think maybe COVID might have had something to do with getting the product over here. And when the product wasn't available, the popularity went away. It does not take away from the quality of the build. All right, the quality of the build. It has a satiny, a chrome satin finish. I would like to call this like a bead blast. Right, this when you get it nice and it was taken off. It's got all its grain in it from all the grinding that you've done on it, and then you spray it with some bead blasting material, and it gives it this particular sheen, which is a satin sheen, and it's a good look. So the other part is these things are very strong. It's a 20, I believe it's a 23 degree 5-iron. That is pretty impressive with a 42 degree pitching wedge. So we're gonna need a lot of wedges, right? We're gonna need a lot of wedges. So what did we get? Well, the golfer gave us Adele wedges, all right? Adele wedges. And these things are extraordinarily clean. Although I'm not a fan of the way that they finished the sole, but Adele has never been one to compromise or, how shall we say, follow the pack. And so we went to Adele's website. So when we go to Adele's website, we find the wedges. Now, of course, there's all other stuff going on there, and we find out that the weights are just not decoration. They're just not decoration there, that they're actually for some sort of matching criteria. And much like the ones that we have, there's a red line that is in the middle weight, and where the other two don't have them. I suppose I could take them apart, but I'm not going to because I think they might have some blue goo to keep them solid. Now, there are several different grinds, right? There's a D grind, or a P grind, a C grind, a T grind, and there's another grind. And as we're watching going down the website, each one of these, they tell you what it's for. Now, what really happens here is that it doesn't get a lot of, you don't get a very good picture, okay? You don't get a very good picture. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So this is the T grind. This is the 48 with a T grind. Now, if you look, there's a lot of metal moving around here. This has a trailing edge, it has a leading edge, it has a sole, it has a toe, and it has a heel. Now, if we look at this, and we look at, there we go, there is a truckload of heel missing. There's a lot of trailing edge missing, but there is still, I would say that would be a bit of a narrowish kind of sole because the back end is gone and then the leading edge is rounded and killed. Now it has these lines going that way. I don't like that look, all right? I just don't. I think it would look very cool if it was just all nice and clean like the rest of this thing. The rest of this thing is just super clean. And we basically, in my opinion, wreck it with these lines. Now, you know, that's me. That's just the way I look at it. Now, the other part on this face, the face is unique in that the score lines tend to go a little further than your typical wedge. You know, normally there's a relief on the back and a relief on the front, and this one goes a little bit further out, and there's this crosshatch pattern to give another level of coarseness. Okay. In the middle is the 54, and this one's a C grind. And the C grind is a little bit wider with a lot more heel and toe relief, and it's a much more rounded. The trailing edge isn't as relieved or as noticeable. It's more flowed, which I like that one a lot. There's a lot going on here. If you're playing a very, very hilly course, this would be a very, very nice wedge. It is very significant, this heel and toe relief. I don't know how much of it would be functional per se, but it'll get the job done. And finally, we have the P grind. And the P grind is nothing more than a wide sole grind, okay? It is very wide sole. You see a little bit of heel relief, a little bit of toe relief, and I believe this is a low bounce profile. But if you look, that's very, very wide, and it still has the trailing edge a little bit curved, if we look at it like that. A little bit curved. And it's now this one I like because it doesn't look like it's the reliefs are getting in the way of the lines. This one looks a lot smoother, and I think I can like that one a little bit more. Okay, so we've got that one. We've gone to our website, so we figured out that we've got some taper tip clubs. They're all forged. They're all very nice. And now we're going to put a new shaft in them. Fujikura Axioms. Fujikura Axioms. All right, the Fujikura Axiom. Fujikura is an excellent shaft manufacturer, okay? They have been making shafts since I've been a club maker, and the guys are just, you know, they're top notch. They really do a very good job. Right now, they are riding high on the Velo core. I used to call it Velocore. Velo core that's in their driver shafts and their wood shafts. They have now figured out how to put it into an iron shaft, i.e. the Axiom. Now, this is not your stereotypical shaft, and this is going and checking the website is the reason why we saved this set. Otherwise, making them, and these things are not cheap, okay? So what do? Well, we went to the website. If we go to the website, we find out that there are 3 different weights. There's a 75, I mean, it was like a 110-ish type, and then a 125. Now, the thing about this is, if you read there's a marketing across the board on each one of these. Oh, it does this great thing. These general broad-based terms to get you excited about the product. Some keywords and tricky phrases in the Fujikura is stable, the more, how would you say, the more accomplished player, or the more discerning player, or something along that lines. And what that basically means is these things are going to be a rod, okay? It means that there's going to be low torque. It means there's going to be a stiffness profile in there for somebody who is an aggressive pull down or a late release, or both. Okay, now the 75 is going to be, and what gives it away when you go to look at these things is that the 75 starts at an R. It's all R's and maybe a few S's. Then the next category is S's into an X, and then the 125 is nothing but X's, all right? Nothing but X's. So that's what this thing is telling you, that these are pretty stout shafts, all right? Stout shafts with a Velo core, and they're also using a technology called Enzo. Now, Enzo is not something that goes in the shaft, it's about the shaft, right? They're using this as a research tool. Enzo is kind of a research, like a monitoring. We'll call it like a launch monitor for a shaft, although that is total simplification, let me tell you. What they have is multiple cameras watching what's going on in order to ensure that this shaft is working for you, and after testing, they've decided this way it's going to be. Now, if we go back to the website yet again, we find out 2 very, very important things. That there are shafts that are designed for the high end, the 3, 4, and the 5. We also find that there are shafts made for the mid-end, the 6, the 7, the 8, and the 9. I believe it just goes to the 9. There's 4 of them. And then the rest are in the short irons. So this could be pitch and wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, the whole 9 yards. So that's important. That means in this set, I need at least 1 tall. I need about 2 or 3 of the mids, and then I need a whole bunch of bottoms. Okay. That was important. So the golfer did some research, and that's kind of what I got. So we're going to go with that. Okay. I got 3, 4, or 5. Let's see, 5, 6, and 7. Yep. 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, and wedges that are going to be in the shorter ends. Now, we also find on the website that the trim codes are not just your normal dynamic, 0, ½ inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 2.5 inch, and so on. Doesn't work like that. What it is in each category, you start at a 0, a ½ inch, and a 1 inch, and it goes all the way down. Okay, so if I would have trimmed these things would have never worked. They would have never worked, and I would have never known it, and we would have assumed that the shafts just didn't work. It was a bad experiment, the whole 9 yards. So we really don't like that. So it's a good thing that we did the research. I'm going to pound this thing home. Now, because of this, there is a technique you guys have been asking me about with graphite shafts that we will be doing. So you need to stay with me towards the end. You know, ever talk about parallel tips into tapers? We're going to do it. Okay. So the real deal with these guys are, they are parallel tips because you got to trim them, right? We got to trim them. So we're going to get the best of both worlds going here. That's going to be something else. Okay. So now, what else have we got to do with these things? Well, we're going to put the BB&F ferrules in there. Yay. And it's a cool looking color, I have to say. Earl Greys, I think is what they're calling them. And we're putting in these Leather Master grips on here. Super tacky. Now, I've done these before. I'm getting ready for a workout when I put these grips on because they are very, very tight. And we're going to talk about the specialities of all this. So, we've got a lot to talk about when we're talking about club assembly. All right, club assembly. So, number one, we've researched everything, right? We know our limitation. We know that we have 355s. And we also have a 370 shafts, so we got to fix that. That's number one. Number two, I've got to weigh them to see what I'm working with weights because the golfer has asked for a specific swing weight. Now, I'm going to do whatever I can to get this particular swing weight, but I'm here to tell you, when you give me this setup and you say, now these are 125s with some, they're not super heavy shafts, so we're probably going to get there with not a problem. But for the 4 through the pitch, we want D3. Well, I'm sorry. For we want D2, 4 through the pitch. We want a D3 for the 48, and we want a D4 for the other 2 wedges. Really? One swing weight change. All right, now, this is where I might get on my swing weight soapbox. If I was to put in there and change all that, chances are, unless this golfer is Edgar Allan Poe kind of sensitive, never know it. Would never know it. Even the best players in the world can't sense one swing weight change. All right, that's just an ask. Now, I thought, well, let's go check it out. I went to this websites and checked them out. With their normal shafts, these are D1.5s. Now they're lighter shafts, so getting to that swing weight point is not going to be a problem. In the Adels, when we go to look at these, I'm going to have serious weights. So unless there's this sort of the pitching wedge, or the 48 is going to have to be very, very close to the pitching wedge, and the other two are going to have to be heavier still. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. And then I'll have to add in a 2-gram swing weight. 2 grams, all right, in order to get where we're at. That's just me complaining. That's just me complaining. So let's get them weighed, and then we'll talk about the rest of it. Oh, and the last bit is no spinning and no flowing because the golfer wants them logo down. So that just took that out. So we're gonna weigh them, figure out what our swing weight is going to be if we're going to have to add anything, and then we're going to talk about trimming and making 370s going to 355s. Give me a minute. Alrighty. All right, it is the second day of doing this. I stopped because I didn't have a good warm fuzzy on how I would deal with the shaft. I wanted to know more, so I called Fujikura. And we talked about the construction of the shaft, what it meant to trim to 355, and all the stuff that, and what velocore or velocore meant. We talked about a bunch of that stuff. We also talked about wanting to do kind of a spinner shaft thing. So the golfer wanted me to do some spinner shaft stuff. I can't do that because these don't trim like spinner shafts. So I called the golfer just to make sure that we were all on the same page because of the way that these trim. All right. This one trims to there's a 0, a half, an inch, a 0, a half an inch, and a 0 and a half an inch. So to get the golfer where he wanted to be, what we're going to do is in the pitch and wedge and in their 48 degree, we're going to trim them the same, and then we're going to leave the other two without any trimming in them in order for them to play like he wants. That's what we're going to do. Now, also found out that we can sand these down. Now, we've talked about this in the past, and the difference is, how do we make it get into here? And like I've said in the past, I would normally just ream this. But I think that I just didn't want to remove too much wall thickness, and it said it could, and it made for a really cool video. So here we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to shape this. Now, in typical shapes, what it is, this is parallel, meaning that it's straight all the way up and down. And taper tips, obviously it's a tapered shaft. However, it's only the bottom part that's tapered. So, but what we're seeing here is that this part's not fitting into the top, so we're going to have to remove a little bit of material here, then shape it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do this a couple of times in normal speed, and then I'm going to speed them all up. So let's get started. So what I'm doing, I'm leaning into it. Okay, if you can't see that, what I've done is I've coned the top, right? That's what I'm looking for first. So it's not a one and done kind of setup, but I want to make sure now all of a sudden it's fitting. Now that we know that it's going to fit, we just need to take some more off of here. A little bit more. Now the cool part about this is it's a telltale. Where the shiny parts show up, that's what we would call high sides, and that's where you got to get rid of that in order for it to fit in there. Ooh, getting close. Nice fit. Okay, so if we show you the difference, and this is the tall one and this is the thin one. Right, if we look at those pretty close, it's not, there's not a lot of removal, but when you're taking it off, it looks like you're taking a truckload off. And I finally this is the end of the hosel where I've got it sanded off. And I get it in there, and it's a nice tight fit, which I'm looking for. That was actually characteristic of the older models in the Spalding era, that kind of stuff, that these things were almost press fit in with a pin or, that kind of stuff. So we've got that one. Now, the alignment is, he wants this sticking up, so that's all we have to worry about. I might take just a hair more off of here, and then we're going to get another one. All right, so that's the 4-iron. The next one is going to be the 5-iron, of which we don't have to trim either. So this is going to be pretty easy this time for him. Now I say don't trim either. I did cut some off of the 4 in order to go with the trim codes. So this is a 0 trim. It obviously doesn't want to go in, but it's fitting into the cone, so we're good there. So let's take some off. So again, what you could use here is, I just use a depth gauge. It can be a popsicle stick, the bottom of a paintbrush like I'm using. You marry them up, and then this is the top. This is literally the top of the golf club. So with a silver Sharpie, I can make a mark, and that's going to tell me just how far I got to go. Let's do another one. Okay, the same thing is, you remove a little bit so it's a little more tapered about the first third of all this, 3/8 to a half of an inch. In it goes, fits like a champ, and we're going to press it down a little bit more. And you know, if you're looking to see if you're getting there, you can always do this, and then you can see the bright spots, which for this one are close to the base. So I can take off a little bit more and it'll fit in. Now, I'm going to do a whole lot more. I'm going to trim them off. We're going to shave them down, and this is one at a time, right? One at a time, so they're custom fitting each one. So let's get to it. Alright, so each one of them are custom fit inside of the hosel. And you saw me measure, so I didn't go past the depth. I really don't like taking too much past the top of the hosel. In fact, I like being a little bit underneath. It's just a thing. Is it structurally unsound? No. It's just something I like to do. Now, you saw me just in the beginning was I used my older belt because it didn't have as much grit on it. It was at the end of its life. But it gave me an idea of what I needed to do in the order of removal in order to see how they were going to fit. Once I realized I was there, then I switched over to a new one and it started coming off really fast. Now, you have to be really particular, very soft in your approach because this is a brand new belt. This thing will eat graphite like nothing. So you got to be, instead of leaning in and trying to figure out what you've got with a belt that hardly has any grit, this one you just barely touch it and then let it roll around and take it off, and it really creates a more coarse surface area for the epoxy to adhere to. So, you just got to have a really fine touch for that, okay? A really fine touch. So the last part of this is those guys, all right? Here we go again. So these things are going to slide on here, and they're going to get to this point, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to slide them any further. And these are, pardon me, these are long ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill these out. I've shown you these on other builds. I'm going to drill these out, and then we'll see how they get put on here. I'm not going to show you this part, but what we'll do is we'll talk about the gluing, and then we'll show you what's done afterwards. So give me a few more minutes now. All right, so now we're ready to go. We drilled out the ferrules. They took the drill bit very well. I used a much sharper bit, and it works way better. Good tip. Use this very sharp drill bit, and it won't get too much. All right, so now we have them all laid out. The only thing we got to do now is, if we got them in line, is we got to make sure that the logo is down, which means the little Fujikura circle is sticking up, and we'll put them up there. I've got my tape ready. I've got my paper towels ready. I got that ready. We're going to use the 420 from 3M, and we're going to get, as soon as this thing comes off, there we go. I'm going to give it an extra squirt here. There we go, because we got a few extras to do, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to put you down here a little closer, and we're going to go fast. Okay, I got my trusty dusty piece of wood right here. I got my 4-iron right here. Should work just fine. I get a little bit of glue so I can slide the ferrule on. Come on, ferrule. Alrighty, we're looking good already. Put that on there, let's push her down. Oh, we're liking that. Let's see, did we get far enough? I think we did. Let's make sure. Nope, I got a little bit more to go. So in this case, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of heat so it'll slide some more. There we go. Now it's in there, almost to the point where I can't take the thing off. There it is. Now we're good to go. All right, a little bit of gluing in the shaft. Start spinning it on so that it gets covered. Now what I like to do is grab the last bit of glob so I'm not wiping a lot of it off, so it fits in there. Alrighty. Now we want logo down. That's the Velocor Axiom. We're going to put it right in line with this so that it's right in line with that. Not bad. And then we're pressing it down. There. If you heard it, you heard it changing the tapping sound, and that means we hit bottom. Now, the real key here is to get all this glue off so you don't do any work cleaning it up. Spend the time. There we go, nothing's coming off. Tape it so it doesn't want to move. Get this shaft out of the way. And there we go. So that's what we're going to do with the rest of them. So we're going to speed this one up. So let's keep up now. Well, I had to take a break here while I was putting these clubs together. Mrs. McGolf apparently got stuck out on the range, the X range, and I had to go rescue her in a tow strap in a truck. That was fun. Alrighty, so we have the Gripmaster grips, and I want to read something. These are black leather. They're called the Rue grips, and they're from the Club Makers series. They're called Slip-On Genuine Leather Golf Grips. Premium quality, sensational feel, and pro tack. And they're not lying. This is actually a really nice feeling grip. It comes with fitting and installation instructions. It talks about confirming the size, removing the old tape, any burrs. Cover the shaft in full layer masking tape or double-sided tape. If you're using masking tape, they suggest using glue. Yeah, no. And double-sided tape, you're using solvent. All right. And it says 10 inches down the shaft and a little extra over the butt. And they don't recommend any more than 2 layers. That was important. That's the reason why you look at some of this stuff. Don't bend or kink. Ease onto the grip and put it away. Now, there's some other stuff on here. Talks about cleaning. Don't use any leather treatment, solvent chemicals. Only clean with a damp sponge or cloth. So, it is telling us to put this thing on with a solvent, but don't clean it with a solvent. So what does that mean? That means that when you go to put this in here, that you don't want to be real messy with it. So you don't want to be grabbing it with a solvent-covered hand. You want to be, when you're shaking it up, you want to be very careful about how you put it in there to minimize the amount of solvent on the outside, and then wipe it down with a wet cloth. And that's what we're going to do. So I've got them all cut now. I've got them all the ferrules prepped, and I've got the tape on. So now I'm doing it this way, and I've talked to the golfer about it, and I said, well, I got to get ready to go wrestle these grips, because every single time I've used these things, I've gone into this, it's been a wrestling match. And it's not, I don't think it's because the grips are bad, it's got to be me. So anyway, he says, I put a bunch of them on and never had that problem. Well, here we go. Let's find out if it was just me. So I just want to put enough in there to make it so that the inside gets coated. And I'm moving my hand away from it fast so I don't get any solvent on it. We cover up the weep hole again. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We are looking good now. All right, so this thing has a bit of a rib. Has a bit of a rib where the leather meets. And I'm wanting to make sure that it follows the shaft a bit. I'm just trying to get an idea. Okay. Nope, that works good. All right, I'm going to get a wet towel real quick so I can just do this all in one shot. Okay, I've got my wet towel. Maybe it was just putter grips I was struggling with. Yeah, but let's not talk too soon. Alrighty, here we go again. Just enough in here to get it to slide on. That's enough. We're going to shake it up. And what I'm using is the bottom now to line it up as kind of a straight underneath to get where I want to be. Like that. Back on the weep hole. Find my way over the top. There we go. Not bad. And now I have logos that I can use to make sure that I'm in line with my grip. All right. Wipe it down. And on to the next one. All right, we are all done. The club heads, it was an interesting build to be sure. The way that we put them in is not normally a normal fashion of what I would do. I would typically take it out of the head. However, I just didn't like what I saw as far as thickness goes. Doesn't mean it's bad or good, it's just a preference, okay? So what we did is we narrowed down the shaft in order to get it fit. So more of a custom fit, so to speak. And then using the Earl Grey BB&Fs in order to dress up the Axiom shafts, which are new from Fujikura, using the Velo core. Very, very stout shafts. They're going to, the golfer can be as aggressive as he likes and it'll stay with him. Now at the bottom end, it was a pure guess, educated as much as it can be, as far as giving him the spinner feel as far as the way that the club would work. So we talked about only cutting off a little bit, and that's what I did. And as it turns out, from a flex profile, it worked out very, very well. So our flexes and links and all those kind of stuff came out very, very well. The Rue grips from Master Grip went on very well. And after I wiped them all down like you saw, the tack on them is just incredible. I tried to put the sleeves that they came in back over. I just couldn't because they kept getting stuck and I kept breaking them. So not the grips, but the little plastic package. So we're gonna have to figure out some way of separating them a little bit. Otherwise, they actually might stick. The last part is that all the specs were pretty good. I was a little light on swing weight, but in retrospect, on one of them I would have had to put in some sort of crazy amount and it would have made it feel unbalanced. So I went with balance instead of actual number. So they all feel very good. It's just, you know, when you try and hit this number, sometimes you don't get that feel that you want. And this golfer is very, very good. So I made him a very consistent feel in order for it to work for him in the way he's probably going to use these clubs. So if you like what you saw, hit the like button down below. Don't forget about us on the live stream on Mondays at 17:30 or 5:30 p.m. on Eastern Time. It's What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. If you find yourself a little bit out of your depth, and you're doing this repair and you're like, oh man, I don't know, and you need some help, you can send them to us and we'll help you out. We'll turn them around. Not too bad. Or email us at clubmaker@mcgolf.net or mcgolfshop@roadrunner.com. And that way that everybody's out on the golf course enjoying their stuff or enjoying a new hobby. And as always, guys and gals, let's see your scores go low.